Discipline is often misunderstood as sheer willpower, a battle of brute force against laziness or distraction. But the truth, grounded in the deepest layers of neuroscience, is far more empowering. Discipline is not just a mind. Said discipline is governed by the prefrontal cortex, which regulates focus, impulse, control, and goal direction. This part of your brain is not just tissue. It is divine territory. It is the seat of your will, the altar of your decisions, and the battleground where your present urges collide with your eternal calling. It sits just behind your forehead, small in size but infinite in impact. This is where the decision to rise or to retreat is made, where the war between temporary comfort and lasting purpose is fought every day. The prefrontal cortex is where your mind steps out of survival mode and into strategy. It does not crave pleasure. It calculates meaning. It doesn't react to the moment. It projects into the future. When you choose to wake before the sun, to move your body, to open the book, to say no to the easy and yes to the worthy, it is this region that comes alive. It is here that discipline begins, not in emotion, but in wiring. The prefrontal cortex is what gives you the supernatural ability to say, I feel one thing, but I choose another. This isn't just biology, it's divine engineering. You were created with a command center that could override instinct. Animals react, but humans, those made in the image of something higher, respond. You are not a slave to your hunger, your fatigue, your scrolling. You were given a prefrontal cortex so you could rise above those things, so you could shape your path, not be shaped by it. And the more you use it, the more you activate it through consistent, deliberate choices, the stronger it becomes. Each act of discipline is a signal, a declaration, a rewiring. When you resist the urge to quit, when you press in instead of pulling out, when you obey your mission instead of your mood, you are feeding this sacred structure. The prefrontal cortex grows with resistance. It expands with challenge. It is strengthened by sacrifice. And the miracle of neurobiology is that you don't have to be born disciplined. You can become it. The brain changes. Circuits adapt. What begins as a battle becomes a baseline. What was once hard becomes natural. But this takes reverence. You must approach discipline as a form of worship, not of self, but of the gift you've been given. A mind capable of order, a brain capable of direction, a vessel capable of choosing purpose over impulse. The world will train you to numb this part of you, to live in your limbic system, to bow to comfort, to novelty, to instant gratification. But the prefrontal cortex stands as a doorway. You either walk through it into legacy or walk away from it into regret. There is power in you that you've only begun to access, and it starts in the silence before the choice. That pause, that breath, that sacred second when you know what is right, even when it's hard, that moment is your altar. That moment is your command post, and your brain is ready, wired for glory, waiting for your yes. Dopamine drives disciplined behavior when it's attached to effort and progress, not just outcomes. Dopamine is not the reward itself. It is the drive toward the reward. It is the fuel of pursuit, the spark that turns intention into action. And yet, in a world addicted to shortcuts, dopamine has been hijacked. We've been trained to associate it with instant gratification, with scrolling, with sugar, with shallow applause. But biologically, dopamine was designed for something far more powerful, to move you toward effort, to energize you through challenge, to anchor your motivation not in the prize, but in the process. When dopamine is linked to outcomes alone, it becomes fragile. It fades as soon as the goal is reached. But when it is tethered to the effort itself, to the climb rather than the summit, your entire neurological system becomes unstoppable. You begin to crave the process. You begin to desire the discipline. The work itself becomes rewarding. This isn't psychology, it's neurobiology, and it is holy because it speaks of a design deeper than pleasure. It speaks of a brain built not just to receive, but to pursue with purpose. The effort-based dopamine system is a sacred loop. Every time you celebrate the grind, Every time you attach meaning to the reps, the study sessions, the early mornings, you are rewiring your brain to find joy in obedience, not just results. This is how discipline becomes sustainable, not because the end is sweet, but because the journey becomes sacred. You begin to feel elevated in the struggle. You begin to experience fire not just in the finish line, but in the footsteps. This is the secret of the prophets and the warriors. It's the reason some can endure the wilderness while others perish in the palace. They've trained their reward system to respond to effort. They've made the act of showing up every day, every hour, every moment, the reward itself. And the brain, when trained this way, becomes resilient. It stops chasing comfort and starts chasing calling. It stops needing the world to applaud and starts finding fire in the unseen. This is not something the flesh understands easily. The flesh says, "Why try if you're not there yet?" But the spirit, fueled by dopamine aligned with purpose, says, "I rejoice in the trying." Because that effort, that daily laying down of self, that deliberate choosing of the hard path, is recorded not just in your habits, but in your neurons. You are building a brain that cannot be broken because it is not moved by results, it is moved by resolve. When you train your dopamine system to fall in love with discipline, you become untouchable. Distraction loses its grip. Delay no longer deters you, and failure stops being fail. It becomes fuel. This is not motivation. This is divine wiring. You were created to grow through effort, to find joy in progress, to be rewarded by the climb, not just the crown. And when your dopamine flows through that system, you don't just chase goals, you embody glory. Neuroplasticity allows the brain to rewire itself through repeated, intentional, disciplined actions. You are not fixed. You are not bound by your past habits, your old patterns, or the limitations others placed on your name. Deep within the design of your brain is a truth so powerful, it defies every lie that says this is just who I am. That truth is neuroplasticity, the God-or, deigned ability of the human brain to rewire itself, to transform, to become something new through repeated, intentional action. You are not merely reacting to life. You are rebuilding your mind every day you choose discipline over distraction. Neuroplasticity is not a theory. It's a miracle hidden in your biology. Every thought you think, every behavior you repeat, every action you commit to is shaping the structure of your brain. The more you walk a certain path, the deeper that path becomes. The more you choose the hard road, the more automatic it becomes. What once required effort begins to flow with ease, not because the world changed, but because you did. Because your brain adapted, because your mind submitted to purpose. This is not reserved for the elite or the genetically gifted. This is for anyone willing to show up again and again and say, "Today I will choose growth. Today I will choose structure. Today I will choose what is right, not what is easy." With every repetition, neurons fire. With every act of resistance against temptation, synapses strengthen. You are not simply choosing behavior. You are laying down spiritual and biological tracks that form the rails of destiny. The enemy of your calling wants you to believe you're stuck, that if you've failed before, you'll fail again. But the science of your Creator says otherwise. It says you can transform, that what was once your weakness can become your weapon, that the parts of your brain used to chase comfort can be rewired to crave the crucible, to hunger for the place where strength is forged. Discipline is not just what you do. It's who you become when your brain aligns with heaven's architecture. But neuroplasticity is not passive. It responds to intention. You must act. You must repeat. You must choose, even when your emotions scream otherwise. Because it is in the choice, in the action, in the persistence, that new circuits are formed. These circuits are not temporary. They are structural. They don't fade when motivation fades. They hold. They carry you when you are tired. They become the automatic pathways of your future. This is why every small decision matters. Every morning you rise early, every workout you complete, every moment you resist the scroll and return to your work. You are not just doing something good. You are becoming someone new. You are writing new code into the system of your brain, and with it, unlocking a new future. One built not by chance, but by choice, not by comfort, but by calling, not by emotion, but by repeated, holy, disciplined action. Circadian alignment through morning light, movement, and consistent wake times enhances cognitive control. There is a divine rhythm written into your biology, a sacred clock ticking inside every cell of your body, orchestrated by light, by movement, by timing. This is your circadian rhythm, not just a sleep-wake cycle, but the foundational architecture of mental clarity, emotional stability, and disciplined action. When you rise in alignment with that rhythm, when you expose your eyes to natural light, when you move your body early in the day, when you wake consistently, your brain does not simply wake up. It activates, it sharpens, it prepares for battle. The Creator wired this system into you for a reason. He made light the first thing spoken into existence, and it still commands your biology today. Morning light is not just illumination, it is instruction. When photons strike your eyes, they signal to the suprachi, asthmatic nucleus in your brain, it is time to be alert, time to focus, time to shift from sleep to purpose. That light triggers a cascade. Cortisol levels rise at just the right amount, not for stress, but for clarity. Dopamine begins to pulse, serotonin builds, melatonin fades. You are chemically, neurologically, spiritually stepping into order. But when you deny this rhythm when you sleep in, avoid the light, delay movement, and let randomness govern your mornings, you are not just tired. You are misaligned. You are fighting the very flow of creation. You are sending mixed signals to your brain, confusing your hormone balance, fogging your focus, dulling your drive. Discipline cannot grow in confusion. It must be rooted in order, and the circadian system is your first alignment with that order. Movement, too, plays its part. Early physical activity, whether walking, stretching, or training, signals to the nervous system, we are active, we are awake, we are engaged, blood flows. The mind sharpens, the body obeys. This movement, synced with light and consistency, primes the prefrontal cortex, your center of willpower, decision, making, and self-control. This is not coincidence. This is divine intelligence, written into your anatomy. When you wake at the same time daily, when you open your eyes to the morning sun, when you move your body with intention, you are doing more than creating a habit. You are tuning your brain to the frequency of discipline. You are telling your biology, we are not slaves to the flesh. We follow the rhythm of purpose, and in that obedience, strength is built. Not just physical strength, but cognitive control, mental clarity, emotional resilience. There is no freedom without rhythm. There is no discipline without structure, and structure begins with honoring time, not man's time, but the time marked by light and breath and blood. Align yourself with it, and you will find your mind more focused, your emotions more stable, your choices more powerful, because the brain was never meant to thrive in chaos. It was made to follow the cadence of purpose, one sunrise at a time, one choice at a time, one act of holy alignment that declares, this day is claimed by discipline. Breathwork and deliberate cold exposure activate neural circuits tied to resilience and emotional regulation. There are tools, ancient and biological, hardwired into your nervous system, tools that do not require motivation, inspiration, or willpower to begin, tools that bypass the noise of the mind and go straight to the circuits of strength. Breath and cold, two elements created in the beginning, are not just physical forces. They are keys that unlock deep neurological systems tied to resilience, control, and inner stillness. They awaken what is dormant. They teach the body to remain calm when chaos comes knocking. They train the brain to obey purpose, not panic. Breathwork is not mere relaxation. It is command over the autonomic nervous system. It is direct access to the switchboard of your inner world. With each deliberate breath, in through the nose, deep into the diaphragm, and out with intention, you are activating the parasympathetic nervous system, calming the storm. Or, when needed, you can activate the sympathetic system, invoking controlled intensity, focus, readiness. This is not superstition, this is science. Your breath can upregulate or downregulate your state. It is the remote control for your brain's energy and discipline. The breath you ignore is the power you've never claimed. It is the original rhythm, given before language, before memory, before the first thought. It is the breath of life, and it is the bridge between mind and body. The one who masters the breath masters the reaction. And the one who masters the reaction masters their life. When you feel overwhelmed, unfocused, unmotivated, it is not always because you're weak. It's because your system is untrained. But 1 minute of breath work, one deliberate inhale and powerful exhale, can reroute your entire state and anchor you back to clarity. And then there is cold, a force most flee but the disciplined embrace. Cold plunges and cold showers are not about proving toughness. They are about exposure to controlled adversity. When your body enters the cold, the initial reaction is panic. Your heart races, your breathing shortens, but if you stay, if you breathe through it, if you endure, you train your nervous system to hold peace in the midst of discomfort. You build resilience not in theory, but in your cells. Your body learns that discomfort does not mean danger. That staying in control is possible even when everything screams to escape. This neural adaptation, this forging of emotional strength through cold, is spiritual. It teaches the lesson that cannot be taught through words, that suffering submitted to discipline becomes strength. That adversity faced head on with breath and focus becomes the forge of character. Cold exposure, done intentionally, rewires the brain to see challenge not as threat, but as opportunity. It shifts your physiology into a state where fear is acknowledged but not obeyed. Breath and cold, when practiced with reverence, are not rituals of the flesh. They are training for the spirit. They strip away the noise, the excuses, the layers of softness that build in a comfort-obsessed world. And in their place, they instill control, clarity, and courage, the kind of courage that doesn't shout, but breathes. That doesn't run, but remains. That doesn't seek ease, but chooses discipline. This is the brain god designed one that bows to truth, not to temperature. One that finds peace not in comfort, but in control. Nutrition, sleep, and stress management directly influence neurotransmitters involved in self, control, and motivation. Discipline is not simply a battle of the will. It is a reflection of your internal chemistry. Your decisions, your focus, your ability to delay gratification and rise with purpose are not just spiritual intentions floating in space. They are powered, regulated, and sometimes sabotaged by the very things you consume, the rest you neglect, and the stress you carry. The mind may be willing, but if the body is out of order, the temple will crumble. For what use is a sword in a soldier's hand if he is too weak to lift it? Every day, your brain manufactures the neurotransmitters that shape your behavior. Dopamine, the fuel of drive. Serotonin, the regulator of peace. Acetylcholine, the transmitter of focus. GABA, the guardian of calm. But these are not created by chance. They are built from raw material, from amino acids found in food, from the vitamins and minerals carried by blood, from the sleep that cleanses the mind, balances hormones, and restores order. If your body is underfed, sleep, deprived, and overstressed, then no amount of prayer, planning, or pushing will make you consistent. You will burn, you will crash, and you will believe it's a failure of will when it was really a failure of fuel. Nutrition is not optional. It is foundational. Real, whole, unprocessed foods are not a trend. They are obedience to the biological laws written into your design. When you feed yourself with intention, protein for strength, fats for brain power, complex carbohydrates for stable energy, you give your mind the tools it needs to obey. Not just mentally, but neurologically. You begin to rise not just because you want to, but because your system supports the rise. And then there is sleep, the most overlooked commandment in the pursuit of discipline. In the hours of deep rest, The prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that governs decisions and self-control, is restored. Memories are filed, emotions are stabilized, hormones like testosterone and growth hormone are released, not for vanity, but for resilience. Cortisol levels are reset. Without sleep, you are a soldier without armor. You may march, but you will fall when the battle gets thick. And the world will not care that you tried. The brain must be rested. That is not laziness. That is war preparation. And finally, stress, the silent thief. Chronic stress hijacks your mind. It floods your system with cortisol, blurs your vision, narrows your focus to survival. You begin to seek escape rather than execution. You chase relief instead of results, but stress, when managed properly, through breath, prayer, movement, stillness becomes sharpening. You can bend but not break. You can feel pressure but not scatter, because your chemistry is aligned with your calling. The body and the mind are not separate. They are covenant partners. The body fuels the mind steers the body. And when both are honored, when nutrition fuels neurotransmitters, when sleep restores your circuitry, when stress is not buried but transformed, discipline flows. Not from force, but from alignment. Not from hype, but from harmony. You were not created to burn out. You were created to burn bright, but the flame must be fed. The fire of discipline must be built on the altar of obedience to your biology.